Alright guys, dealing with some common misconceptions about street fighting versus sport BJJ, things like this. And you guys know that I'm not a real big advocate of sport BJJ. That's not to say that there's not some benefits behind tournaments and training that. It's certainly a lot of fun, teaches you a lot about strategy, teaches you about how to manipulate your opponent. There's a lot of underlying core concepts that you can get from sport BJJ, not to mention how to mitigate stress and things like this. But that being said, an outsider looking in, there is clearly a difference between sport BJJ and actual combatives, or the use of BJJ in an actual street fight scenario. So one of the misconceptions that I see all the time is I see the issue of biting. So check out this clip.
The thing is, put your leg. If I'm biting, go to the bridge and you open, okay? Basically, I'm not going to stay anymore like that. We agree on that, okay? Basically, I got to be here, maybe turn, and I got to start basically fight for my life now, okay? If the leg is down, and then he gives a lock, he gives a breathe, and I bite, and I have the elbow to the groin, I got to give it. You understand? I'm not going to play now MMA. I'm not going to try now to go to my ankle lock. I'm going to try to go where I can survive.
Alright, the first thing that I want you guys to see is that in the context of, or in the confines of the dojo, the academy, the mat, whatever you want to call it, it's really, really easy to be SWAT Ninja, Ranger 6, Delta Recon badass. It's really easy to play scenarios out in your mind. Number one, when you know what what your attacker is going to do. Number two, when he is not going with actual intensity. So I want you to, I've shown this clip before, but I want you to see this particular clip, and I want you to actually look at this from the position of control. Once the individual gets control of her opponent, I want you to see where the opportunities are for that opponent to be able to bite. Okay, now from a strategic perspective, I am not a real big advocate of, if I'm in a top position, of dropping to a bottom position in an actual street fight situation. That's not to say that it can't happen or that there's not some uses for it, but me personally, I do not teach my students to drop back to an armbar. There are plenty of other positions that I can utilize to be able to break and maim without putting myself in a position of sacrificing a top position for a bottom. Remember that we also want to keep in mind that the objective here is to be able to have the opportunity to access my tools and or to break contact if other individuals come up. That becomes a little bit more difficult if I drop back for an armbar. But just for the sake of argument, just for the sake of consistency and integrity, what I want to do is I want to look at what the one instructor was teaching, that you can bite and you can do all this and elbow to the groin and all this stuff, and look at it from a realistic perspective. You can see that at no point did that opponent have the opportunity to be able to bite, and once the opportunity presented itself, you're talking of maybe 1 to 2 seconds for her to actually make a conscious decision to bite. But at the same time that she has that opportunity to make that conscious decision to bite, she's getting her arm broke in the process. And then once that arm is broke, you can see that the jiu-jitsu player immediately jumps up and regains position because, like I've said, jiu-jitsu is all about positioning. So we also know that jiu-jitsu is about control, okay? The person who controls the fight, the person who controls the position of the fight, is the one who is actually guiding the fight. I do not subscribe to this idea that it's always the opponent or always the attacker who's controlling the fight. That may be the initial onset of the fight, but to stay in that mindset that he is controlling the fight is to put yourself in a constant counteracting position. So what I want to do is I want to play out a scenario here. We're going to look at another video clip, just one more, and we're going to look at how positioning takes place. And I also want you to notice the unconscious bias. All right, so we'll talk about that in a second.
Fuck yeah! Get your money! Get him! Get him! Come on, homie, hit him! Hey, don't quit! Hit him! Hit him! Don't fight, motherfucker! Hit him, homie, hit! Hit! Damn, I'll do it! Nice! Hit him, dog! Hit him! Hit him!
Alright, so see that video, and it's obviously pretty damn alarming, but what I want you to see is I want you to see that even though this particular guy is not a jiu-jitsu player per se, he does seem to have some wrestling background and understanding, and at least some foresight to understand that it's the one who's controlling the fight who is actually winning. So what ends up happening here is right from the very beginning, he closes contact, he gets the takedown, takes her down, gets into side mount. Once he's in side mount, I want you to see who it is that has the opportunity to bite. See, the unconscious bias with most of these people who go out and perpetrate these types of arguments is that it's always the non-jiu-jitsu player who has the opportunity to bite, but the jiu-jitsu player is never looked at as having the opportunity. We have to understand that from the perspective of the fight, it's the one who's controlling the fight that has opportunity. If you are not controlling the fight, you have no opportunity. You are defensive. So in this particular case, we can see this individual takes the other individual down, gets the side mount. Once he's in side mount, he is the one who actually has the opportunity to bite, and then even goes through and does so. I don't want you to apply an inconsistent standard to a fight such that we always see these violent, hatred, indignant type tactics always used against the jiu-jitsu player, because it's inconsistent. The fact of the matter is the jiu-jitsu player has just as much opportunity, and I would argue even more opportunity, to exercise those same tactics, because he is the one who is in control. Whether it be stand up and he closes distance and controls in a vertical grappling fashion, or whether he takes the individual down and maintains control from the ground, it is still the one who is in control of his opponent that has the opportunity to do things like eye gouge and bite and face rake and things like this. So we need to look at that from that perspective, and I think these clips really show that best. So, all right, you guys train hard.